Hey everyone, so it's Hearth and welcome back to my channel. So on today's video we are going to be talking about the morality of cursing, hexing, jinxing and crossing, and whether or not you should do it within your own personal practice. So for anyone that doesn't know, cursing, hexing, jinxing and crossing are all slightly different, but they all essentially mean to undertake negative workings against another person or situation. Now these types of workings may be done to disrupt someone's life, they may be to disrupt a situation, to break things in someone's life or in a situation. They are generally deemed as negative workings and sometimes even as black magic. But if you guys have seen my black versus white magic video, you will know that I do not like the terms black magic and white magic. A brief summary of why I don't like these is that they are far too polarizing. They make it seem that everything in this category is all love, light, rainbows and sparkles, and that everyone that practices things in this category are immediately evil, bad people. And I really dislike these terms, but they are used to describe curses, hexes, jinxes and crosses really frequently. So now that we've gone over what a curse, jinx, hex or cross actually is, it's time to talk about the experiences people have when trying to find more information about this really vast topic of witchcraft and magic. So I spend a lot of my time on forums. I do meet a lot of people in real life that are practitioners and have a good deal of conversations with them. But online is where you find most of the communities, and it is where a lot of practitioners go to bounce ideas off people and to discuss topics. But the topic of cursing, hexing, jinxing or crossing is usually hit by a really solid brick wall that's basically insurmountable. If someone merely mentions the word curse or hex or jinx on an online forum or community, they're often met with a sea of negative responses and a lot of really nasty people. Now, having spent a lot of time on these websites, I've pretty much memorized a lot of the responses that people give, and they usually fall in the same kind of category. Often you get responses like, you just need to spend more time thinking about what you're doing, because if you spent more time thinking, you wouldn't want to curse someone. Or you get the comments that are like, oh no, you can't do that, that's too evil. You even get comments like, you need to find another way, find a nicer alternative, kill them with kindness. And the last type of comment, which is in my personal opinion the most infuriating, is the, oh no, you can't curse someone, that goes against the Wiccan Rede. Oh boy, do you hear that one a lot. So why do people have so much hatred for cursing, hexing, jinxing and crossing? And why are they so nasty and foul to the people that might just consider it? Well, largely it's because a huge number of people within magical forums, and especially the online community in general, are under the belief that witchcraft and Wicca are the same thing. Now this is seen in online websites, it's seen in books. A lot of misinformation is spread around that Wicca is simply another name for witchcraft, and in reality that is definitely not the case. In fact, witchcraft has been documented for essentially as long as humans have been able to write. For as long as we've been able to communicate, we have written documentation that witchcraft in one form or another was practiced. Whether that be sacrifices to elemental beings and to gods, or praying in one form or another, magical religious ceremonies and magical practice has been seen for tens of thousands of years. Wicca, on the other hand, was created in around 1939 and was released to the public in around 1951 in England by a man called Gerald Gardner. It is a neo-pagan religion which draws on pre-Christian believed practices in a modern-day religion. Now Wicca does contain aspects of witchcraft in it, and so a lot of Wiccans are also called witches, even if they don't choose to practice witchcraft any further than the Wiccan ceremonies that they take part in. But unfortunately, a lot of people do believe that Wicca is simply a modern term for witchcraft, and it's simply not the case. And these are often the people who go onto these forums and they say that you aren't allowed to curse, hex, jinx, cross because it goes against the Wiccan Rede or the Wiccan belief system. As part of the Wiccan Rede, it does say, "and ye harm none." Although I'm pretty certain that the Wiccan Rede was actually a newer addition to Wicca than Gerald Gardner, I'm pretty certain it came later. Unfortunately, a lot of people do believe that they are one and the same, and because of this, they often push Wiccan ideals on almost everyone within the magical community. Now, I want to make this very, very clear that this is not all Wiccans, not at all. I have met so many amazing Wiccans that allow people to believe whatever they want. Just like with all practices and all religions, there are some that feel the need to force their beliefs on other people. And it definitely isn't all of the community, it's actually just a small fraction. But this small fraction shouts the loudest. So besides their potential belief that Wicca and witchcraft are the same thing, you also do get people who genuinely believe that everyone that practices magic is also Wiccan. Now, this is something that I see every single day. You get people commenting on a bunch of forums about negative workings, asking why they're thinking of doing it if they're Wiccan. And the simple fact is that Wicca is just a tiny fraction of the religions that surround witchcraft, and it's just a tiny fraction of the people that practice witchcraft. In fact, magical practice is found all over the world and is practiced by hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of different people from a whole bunch of different religious backgrounds. The unfortunate fact is that some people really do believe that Wicca is the be-all and end-all of everything, and will instantly assume that everyone that practices witchcraft is also Wiccan, and so you often find this cropping up time and time again. So I will say that if you aren't Wiccan, you don't need to follow the Wiccan Rede. It is not something you have to do unless you follow the religion of Wicca. And if you do follow the religion of Wicca and you are thinking of cursing, hexing, jinxing and crossing, it's not up to anyone else whether or not you choose to do it. You need to look within yourself to see whether it is part of your religion that will accept cursing, hexing, jinxing and crossing. I have found some Wiccans that follow the ideal of do no harm but take no shit. And honestly, this is an absolutely fantastic way of looking at it. For a long, long time, Wicca was considered a religion that people could walk over because no one as part of that religion was willing to do anything negative towards anyone else. But with more and more younger people coming into Wicca, the idea of do no harm, take no shit is something that is coming about more and more and more. And a lot of people are solitary in their practice. So if you do want to curse, hex, jinx or cross and you believe it is within your moral right as part of your religion to do that, then you are free to do that. So going back to the comments, there's another one that really hits me hard, and that is the idea that if you choose to do curses, hexes, jinxes and crosses, you are somehow evil or a bad person. And I want to say right now that this is not the case. Of course, there are going to be some individuals that are going to be undertaking these workings for the purpose of causing malicious harm to someone else's energy and someone else's environment. However, the majority of people that undertake this kind of working, they're doing it as retaliation for something or other. And within the category of curses, hexes, jinxes and crossings are workings that are designed to send negative energy back at someone. It isn't always designed to maliciously hurt someone. A lot of the time, the people that I've spoken to at least, are doing it as a way of returning that energy back to them, for them to experience what they sent at you. And because of this, a lot of people don't consider these types of workings to be black magic, and I don't either. The thing with all forms of magical practice is that it's on a spectrum, and that spectrum changes depending on the individual. So just because this person that posted these comments might think that it's evil to do this type of working, for you, you might not think it is so bad. And in fact, they may be assuming something far worse than what you're actually planning on doing. At least in my case, most of this type of working that I do is to bind their negativity, is to send it back to them, and sometimes to send it back to them amplified. Now, does that make me an evil person? That's really up to you, but as far as I'm concerned, it does not make me a bad person for me to want to send their toxic negativity right back at them again. Now, if you do want to do something maliciously to manifest this negative energy for them rather than to send it back, that often comes from a place of hurt, where you have been wronged, things are issue within your life. That doesn't necessarily make you a bad person. That just means that you want justice for something that's happened. And as far as I'm concerned, that is completely fine. Now, the other comments that come in about this are that you should take more time to think about what you're doing. Now, this is a very justified comment to an extent. Unfortunately, the kind of individuals that post these comments assume that you haven't thought about it at all, and these kind of comments come across as rather belittling. They talk down to you as though you haven't considered your options, that you haven't really thought about it. And a lot of the time, people that choose to undertake these workings have spent a lot of time thinking about the potential outcome. Now, of course, I would never ever suggest going into any working without having thought about it. Although some people do dive headfirst into a working the moment they think of it, I would always suggest taking time to think of the outcomes, because sometimes the outcome doesn't manifest in the way you were expecting. And especially for negative workings like these, they can bounce back pretty bad if the person has shields, protections, guides, guardians, spirits, and angels working on their side. A lot of people will have ancestral energy around them, and this can bounce a working straight back at you. So I would always say that if you want to do any type of working, not just curses, hexes, jinxes, and crosses, even love workings, prosperity workings, good luck spells, love spells, etc., etc., all of these workings can come back to you if they aren't cast correctly or if the person has protections up. All of this can bounce back. And because of that, it is important to take the time to do your research. It is important to take your time to think about it. But I see no reason once you've taken that time to then no longer choose to do it if it's something you are set on. If you've thought about the outcome, thought about the potentials, you still want to go ahead after you've cooled down, because I know it can be really easy to just jump into doing these kind of negative workings because you're angry. But if you have thought about it, you have taken that time to cool down, and you still want to do it, I see no reason in continuing on and doing it anyway. So the last thing that gets said a lot is that you need to find another way and to kill them with kindness. Now, this is something that gets mentioned a lot when someone mentions cursing and hexing. It's actually really difficult to not find this comment on forum posts about cursing and hexing, because so many people genuinely believe this. They genuinely believe that if you find an alternative route, that if you give them another option, so you kill them with kindness, that it will somehow miraculously fix the issue. And in some cases, this could work. So I would say that if you are wanting to curse, hex, jinx, or cross someone, that you do think of potential alternatives first. However, I don't believe that you should desperately try to find some miraculous alternative if genuinely the best way to go about fixing this problem is to just get it over with, curse, hex, jinx, cross, whatever it may be. Sometimes that really can be the answer. And a lot of people are unfortunately very steadfast on the idea that love and light can cure the world. And although I think it's always good to be kind to other people and to be gentle and to go about the world with love and appreciation, sometimes that doesn't get stuff done. Sometimes you genuinely do just need to rip the band-aid off and get on with it and do some negative work or some return to sender work or something to send that energy back their way, or to send it their way in the first place if they really need a lesson. Now, definitely not everyone is going to agree with me on this, but sometimes I find that people on these forums, people who answer these kind of questions, they are really belittling a lot of the time. They spend a lot of their time talking down to the person that's posted the original content. And although, yes, it likely comes from a place of worry and concern, it also comes across as very condescending. You know, oh, you haven't thought about this for long enough, or why would you do that? It goes against the Wiccan read, you should know better, you know, those kind of comments. So this is for all of you guys who have been interested in cursing, hexing, jinxing and crossing and have been concerned because you've likely received a lot of these responses. It is all down to your personal morals. Everyone's moral spectrum is different. To one person, a love spell is fine. To another person, a love spell is not fine. To some people, a prosperity working is good. To some, it is evil. And this is the issue. A lot of people push their own morality onto others within the community, when the simple fact is, our morality is our morality. It is our spectrum that is defined by our experiences and our beliefs. And if you feel as though you are comfortable doing a curse, hex, jinx or cross, you understand the potential backlash that all workings can receive. It's not just negative, it is all workings. If the person or situation you are aiming towards has shields, wards, protections, ancestors, spirits, guardians, and so on, then as far as I am concerned, you should be free to practice how you see fit. Your practice is yours, and as long as you've taken the time to really consider it and not kind of rushed in with rage or anger, then I think it's perfectly valid as a path to take. Now, a lot of people who post these kind of questions do get a lot of backlash, and they do get this giant brick wall, and sometimes they're just curious to learn more. So if you want to learn more about cursing, hexing, jinxing and crossing, the different techniques, the different methods, YouTube is a fantastic resource to help with that. There are a lot of practitioners on YouTube that don't follow the Wiccan Rede, that do follow a system that permits them to curse, and they do actively curse and return workings, and they post about them on their channel. And if you can find some of these workings, it can really help you expand your knowledge so you can undertake these kind of workings yourself if you choose. Another great resource is Reddit. Reddit has an amazing forum, I'm not really sure what they're called, that's just called Witchcraft. And on there, everyone is so open. No one seems to hurl abuse at anyone else for anything that they practice. So if you're interested in posting a question, I think that there would be an ideal place to post a question and get valid, genuine answers from other practitioners who likely do similar workings. So to finish up what I'm saying here, because this has been likely quite jumbled, if someone tells you that you aren't allowed to curse, hex, jinx and cross within your personal practice without them having any real knowledge of it, then you can just ignore that information. If you are of a path that has very specific morals, I would be sure to check with your own religion, your own tradition and your own path to see where the beliefs lie with what you want to achieve. Some paths don't permit cursing, hexing, jinxing and crossing. Some of them don't want you to do any negative workings at all, and some of them will allow specific quantities of negativity to be cast against situations but not people. Sometimes it's people but not situations. So if you do follow a specific tradition, religion or path, be sure to check with that path before you go ahead and do it. Always take time to consider your options. Don't just jump in as the first thought. Make sure you genuinely think about it. This doesn't just go for cursing and hexing, this also goes for all workings. Make sure you look at mundane means of gaining the result that you want to achieve first. Don't just jump into magic as the first resort. Always think of alternatives to the working that you want to do. This doesn't just go for cursing and hexing, this also goes for all other forms of working. Make sure that what you are doing is the best course of action, as the best course of action is likely to have the least backlash onto you. Make sure that if you are going to do this type of working, you have your own protections up, especially if you're aiming it towards other practitioners or other people. Practitioners generally have very strong protections up, and so any negativity sent their way is likely going to come straight back to you. So always make sure that you have protections and wards up around you and your property to make sure that you stay energetically safe from anything that might come back to you. And of course, always make sure that it is within your own morals to do a working. If you feel uncomfortable and you feel like something's not quite right, then don't do the working. Take a step back, think about it, plan it out, and then go from there. Cursing is not for everyone. Some people don't feel comfortable with it, and that is completely fine. So make sure that you feel comfortable and then go from there. If you feel uncomfortable at any point, stop and rethink, because it may well be that a different course of action is right for you. Always go with your gut, follow your instincts, and if something doesn't feel right, then don't keep doing it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope this kind of rambly video is informative and helpful for anyone that is interested in this kind of topic. If you did enjoy this video, feel free to give it a like. It really means so much to me. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, video ideas, or just want to chit chat with the community down in the comment section, feel free to post a comment. And if you enjoy the magical content on this channel or in this video, feel free to hit subscribe. I post new magical content every Wednesday and every Saturday at 6 p.m. And a massive shout out to all of my amazing Patreons and supporters on Ko-fi who help to fund this channel and to keep it going. You guys help to keep my content there, and you guys help to keep my equipment up and running, because believe me, it is dying. So a massive thank you to all of you guys who have signed up to support me. If you are interested, the link will be down in the description box below. But of course, just everyone's support and love on this channel is amazing without having to follow Patreon. So I hope you guys enjoy this video, and I hope you have a marvelous magical day. Bye!